Welcome back. Of course, in this today's special, I'm joined for this discussion around the role of business, of government, in making sure that there's shelf space for locally made products, not just hair products. I mean, we got to this discussion today because we're much more calmer compared to just the other week when we were all outraged by that Clicks Trezeme racist ad. And that hair product issue became a topic because government moved swiftly to ensure that Clicks and the likes will stock locally made hair products. But we're looking beyond just that. And there's an informal sector that's playing a role. And Eustace Mashimbye is the CEO of Proudly SA. Mzwanele Memani from the Department of Small Business Development, and of course we've got Rosheda Muller, who is the president of the South African Informal Traders Association, and in the studio I have Mr. Michael Nkuna, the chairman of the Masingita group of companies. Now, as we were coming to this point, I'm getting a sense of that there was a lot of talk, but very little action. Now, Tatana Mashimbye, when you hear that, and I hear the Mzwanele from government saying that you guys have been talking, how confident are you that things are going to change now and that you will be able to go to the next level in terms of your mandate as Proudly SA?
And Mzwanele is quite right. We have had those conversations, in fact, for a couple of months now. And in fact, in terms of taking it to the next level, what we have done is we have taken those companies that were part of the program carried out by the Department of Small Business, where they took them to wholesalers and retailers in an attempt to try and get shelf space for them. What we've done is we've then taken the same companies and put them onto our online store, because we know, especially with COVID and all its restrictions, that a lot of people have really shifted towards online shopping. Online shopping had been growing, but we've seen it grow much more during this past few months. And through our online store, we're able to absorb all these companies that have already been taken by the department to retail spaces, because it's about access to markets. Whichever way consumers are going to access their products is where you need to have these locally made products accessible. And that's where you need to take the product. So we have looked at online shopping. We have continued with our conversations with retailers, and we are confident that over time, we are going to start seeing more and more locally made products, more and more products coming from smaller businesses being on retail shelves, because the responses have not been negative, to be honest, but then it's just a matter of finding ways to position the products either as house brands or as brands that can be established, and that's why they have to be taken through a vetting process by Proudly South African, so that we can assure consumers who will find them on the shelves, as well as the retailers, that they will start getting access to locally made products, but of a high quality nature.
What is the role of big business, of private business? For example, you are talking about vetting to make sure it's good quality products. I'm thinking about scalability. Is it an issue here, or small producers just want to remain like that and have a niche access?
What we have seen assisting in the other two industries where we've had successes, especially in the furniture industry as well as clothing and textile industry, is enterprise development programs, enterprise and supply development programs, where the retailers partner with these smaller players to help them scale when there's a need. So a retailer will bring you onto their books and onto their list of suppliers, and with an assurance that every time there's a need for you to scale up, the programs that they undertake as retailers or as big business will then assist these companies to scale up. So we have seen a lot of success stories, especially in these two industries, where we are confident that we've attained reasonable success in terms of ensuring that we increase levels of local content in retail spaces. So that is the same conversation we are having with these FMCG retailers. I mean, where we've made significant progress in terms of our conversations is with the likes of OBC, with ShopRite, and we are talking to all of them following the workshop we had with them, where the bilaterals are giving us a sense that the enterprise and supply development programs will help these companies scale up and really reach higher levels where required.
Okay, looks like some action might be happening there. I just want to shift from just the focus a little bit to a higher level topic. One of the thoughts I had when this whole Clicks debacle was happening was 26 years or 20 into our democracy. Why is it that we still not having this big, we don't have any big black-owned retailers in shopping malls, Nkuna? I mean, have you got a response to that?
Well, yes, I do have a response. The problem that occurred, prior to 1976, we did have blacks that were running, big retail business. But you see, after the inception of our government, whereby, our government introduced, the tender system, and those who were in, retail business realized that, those who were in tender business, they were making millions and billions overnight. So they left, their section and focus on the tendering system, without realizing that, tendering is not a formal business. It's just, a stepping stone that government created to help, those who were starting. So if government came in and started, focusing on those, black business retailers that were there, and uplift them so that, they can, compete with, the counterpart on the other side, we would have seen, a lot more retailers.
So the advent of the tender system sort of changed the focus. The reason I was asking this, and Rosheda, I want to hear your view here, because I was thinking, why should it be that a small black-owned business in this kind of space, in the FMCG space, should be confined to spaza shop type of business?
Me?
Yes, Rosheda?
Hi, sorry. I'm so happy for these points because I've lived these things. The reasons why we fail in a mall, because the rentals are too high. We cannot sustain. For example, for 20-odd years, I had a small kiosk on Cape Town Station. When 2010 came, we were removed, but had an opportunity to return. From paying 3,000 per month for that space, I now had to pay 15,000. Am I being heard? I don't hear myself speak.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so this is a very important thing because that is PRASA-owned land. And the local traders that operated on Cape Town Station, and I'm one of them that started in 1988, and we built up our organizations by pooling together our informal traders. We formed the first limited company of 100 informal traders. But where are we today? We're gone. No mentorship, no support, no will to see that we succeed.
Now,
and we are now ready for the action.
Yeah, you make another point, Ella. You mentioned that informal sector got a lot of skills. Now you mentioned that you're being squeezed out of malls because of the rentals. And Mr. Nkuna here has said earlier that there's also been a shift. Many black business people ran into the tender system after 1994 because they could make those millions. And then, of course, their retail business began to suffer. Is there thinking, Mzwanele, in terms of government, that part of solving on a sustainable basis the role of small and medium business going forward in the country is to make sure that there's a bit of fairness in the playing fields where a up-and-coming informal business or small business can find even space as a tenant in a big shopping center where they can attract customers?
Yeah, but then that is happening. So we do see pockets of success in a variety of areas. But of course, as government, we don't want to leave everything to big business and the private sector. So by last year already, we had initiated a process of supporting small businesses and informal businesses through a program called Shared Economic Infrastructure, where we can go to townships and in rural areas and identify old buildings or buildings that belong to municipalities that can be converted, renovated, refurbished, and get small companies to operate in those businesses.
At an affordable rent?
At an affordable rate, and that's important, yeah, because as you know, some of the costs, especially if you look at industrial parks, the rentals can be very expensive. So, but our view as the department is that we if government is refurbishing those buildings, the rentals should be affordable.
So there is an effort to do that. And Nkuna, do you see in the malls that under Masingita group of companies, you are in different parts of the country. You exist in Limpopo, in Gauteng, and many different parts of the country, even in some of the semi-urban areas and semi-rural areas. Are you beginning to see local traders, local small business, medium operators coming into those malls? And is your business giving them affordable rentals?
Well, we're seeing, a lot of small business people coming into those shopping centers. And what, at the point that I want to raise here, everything resonates from the land, right? And as a developer, if you buy land at a very expensive price, you'll find that, you'll have to work backwards in terms of your return on your investment. But you see, I once had a discussion with one minister who was heading a small, business. And my point that I raised with the minister in order to give, the small, business a reasonable rental, I indicated to her to say, what we need to do, government and business, or particularly, developers, they have to work hand in glove with government, whereby, when we identify land for development, government provide, the bulk infrastructure, or government can say, we are going to subsidize 30% of, the land cost, so that, we can hold you to give, the smaller, retailer a reasonable rental. And
what was the government's response at the time when you were engaging with them on the land issue?
Well, like I've said, initially, I've said, with the government, you'll engage with them, and after engaging with them, they are going to forget about it. The next time, when, we are towards something, and then they'll start engaging with you.
But what do you think the private sector like yourself can do to assist those smaller players in the various areas where you've got property?
Well, if you look in some areas where I've got properties, we do have smaller, small business people that we have provided space at a reasonable rental, and we are continuing coming with another initiative that will assist them to come to our centers, because you see, if they are isolated and then they are big malls, people won't go and support them. People want to go to the malls.
Now, Mzwanele, can I bring you in here? Rosheda, earlier, we're covering another aspect of this. It's the skills aspect, the informal sector, highly skilled. I mean, we know historically in this country, even today, you find the informal sector thriving in spaces like personal care. I've mentioned spaza shops. We've got people who do a lot of work in backroom rentals. I mean, in urban areas, we know there's a lot of backroom rentals going on. And largely, now we're still waiting for the regulation of taxi industry. It's been there as well for years. Construction, mechanics, and panel beaters. In solving the future, the informal sector is such a big sector, as we know. Would you consider how their skills can be harnessed to make sure that the economy grows?
Absolutely, Braden. The issue of skills, capacity building is very critical in growing the economy of the country. And so our view is that as key stakeholders that are involved in skills development, universities, so there's a need to work in fact, we are working together to make sure small companies, informal businesses receive training. In fact, even during level 5 and level 4 lockdown, where it was impossible to run conduct training, some of our institutions tried various methods, even if it was e-learning or online training, just to make sure that then training continues even during lockdown. So definitely the issue of skills development is very vital, just to make sure these businesses are empowered to know it's not just about running a small business, but it's about growing that business and contributing to the economy of the country. And I think we're seeing that a graduation, Braden, happening where someone starts informal and in a year or 2 years' time, they're able to graduate into a micro-enterprise, employing 5 or 10 people. And then from there, our idea is to also support these micro-enterprises to become small and even to become medium and large enterprises, if that's possible.
Okay,
that's really our purpose.
Okay, Mzwanele, Memani, on behalf of the Small Business Development Department, a parting shot for you as we're wrapping up now. I'm going to give each of you less than a minute just to wrap up. Is the future, in your view, from where you're sitting, what you know today, going to be different for local producers?
Braden, the future is going to be different. The discussions we're having now with the retailers and wholesalers is that they must give us a list of products where they are importing from across the country, so that these products can form part of our agenda to localize the production of these products in the country. And so we believe, Braden, moving from food to beverages, furniture, chemicals, you mentioned all the critical sectors that we are working on. It's important to get our people, the township and rural enterprises, to participate very effectively in driving the economy of this country. So there's no turning back.
There's no turning back. Rosheda, are you convinced there's no turning back?
Well, the proof is going to be in eating of that pudding. But I think what is important for us, in the necessary action needs, I think meaningful partnerships needs to be developed between, for example, SAITA and the Department of Small Business Development in a form of an MOU, perhaps. And also there has to be less stringent regulations and compliance measures when we apply. We always fail because we cannot meet what the department wants. So the current, I know there are issues on you can apply for catering and manufacturing now, but we just don't meet those stringent compliance measures that they want. So let's hold each other accountable. Let's monitor and evaluate and put timeframes in place to measure the success.
Less red tape. Tatan Mashimbye, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that view, as we need to absorb more and more of our smaller players into it. Earlier on, you mentioned that to really meaningfully go, you need SMMEs, because at the heart, much needed jobs to increase the contribution to the GDP. So certainly, a policy level that is from government, and we see the efforts being made, but the private sector has a thought as the channel that we need.
The private sector has a big role to play. Tatan Nkuna, as you close, you agree that the private sector has a big role to play?
Well, I agree, Braden, as we close that, we need to work together and we need to create, an environment which is going to accommodate even the SMMEs. We're currently working on a project in Kuzana village, whereby we want to create an inclusive development, whereby we're going to create a small industrial area which is going to cater for panel beaters, mechanics and all that. And also we're going to create a mall, and that mall we are going to create 30% for SMMEs, so that they can come and be able to get
affordable rentals.
At an affordable rental.
Thank you very much. Mike Nkuna, the chairman of Masingita Group of Companies. Thank you as well to Eustace Mashimbye, the CEO of Prade South African, and also to Mzwanele Memani, Director of Value Chain Analysis in the Department of Small Business Development, and finally Rosheda Muller, the President of the South African Informal Traders Alliance, bringing us to the close of this special Today edition.